So a lot of the people in this room professionally solve problems with systems. Democracy is a system, and it has a lot of problems. With the election less than 2 weeks away, I thought this might be an interesting and relevant topic. We'll see, see how it goes. So this is Winston Churchill. He saved the world from the original fascism. He famously said, democracy is the worst form of government, except for all the others that have been tried. But we engineer types know that systems can be improved, and I'm about to share some easy to understand problems that you and I can solve to make democracy much better. Problem number 1, plurality voting. This is the nerdy name for each voter choosing one candidate, and the candidate who gets the most votes being declared the winner. It's fine when there's only 2 candidates, but if there are 3 candidates, the winner doesn't need a majority of the votes. And if there are a lot of candidates, it gets uglier. Now, I didn't make up that third pie chart. It's a real example from a primary election just a few months ago. In that election, 76% of the voters voted against the winner. And the winner will go on to win the general election, become a US representative, and make laws for your country. Because that candidate's party hasn't lost that district since 1994. Which brings us to the next problem. So problem number 2, gerrymandering. For anyone who hasn't heard of this, it's the name for drawing a congressional district in a way that strongly favors one political party over another. Of course, that's not great because politicians shouldn't pick their voters. Voters should pick their politicians, right? Now, the slide's a little hard to read because of the font I chose. The font is called Jerry. And it is made entirely of gerrymandered US congressional districts. One of the bad things about gerrymandering is that it increases the number of uncompetitive races where the winner of the dominant party's primary is assured to win the general election. So in the last Pennsylvania general election, 91% of legislative races were uncompetitive. So from this, you might conclude that for your vote to count, it's really important that you vote in the primary, right? That brings us to the next problem. Problem number 3, closed primaries. So a closed primary is a primary where a voter can only vote in the primary for the political party they're registered with. And if they're independent, then they can't vote at all. This is how Pennsylvania primaries currently work. The problem with that is the number of independents has been increasing, and today 43% of US adults aren't affiliated with either political party. That means that in an uncompetitive district, very few voters are eligible to vote for the inevitable winner. With such a small number of people deciding the winner, the influence of money is magnified, which brings us to the next problem. So problem number 4, there's a lot of money influencing politics, and very little of it is coming from ordinary voters like you or me. This is a slide from a local anti-corruption organization called March on Harrisburg. The really sad thing about this slide is that, I love March on Harrisburg, but they're so close to the problem, they forgot that most people would see this slide and assume that this was all against the law. This is actually 5 ways to legally bribe a legislator. So all 5 of those are completely legal. In a lightning talk, I don't have time to cover them all. I'm just going to pick campaign contributions. And to save even more time, I'm going to pick just one campaign contribution from just one person. So hopefully this isn't you. Pennsylvania's richest person is spending millions to elect a Pennsylvania Attorney General candidate in a couple weeks. Specifically, they're spending $5.4 million. Now, take a moment to consider how much money you've ever donated to a candidate running for Pennsylvania Attorney General. And for those of you who are unfamiliar with this position, the Pennsylvania Attorney General is Pennsylvania's chief law enforcement officer. And further, they are tasked with ensuring free and fair elections. So, bad news maybe, but the good news here is that at least the Philadelphia Inquirer uncovered this and was able to publish it. So that's great news, right? That brings us to our final problem, which is the decline of local journalism. So this is a map of the US and all the counties. Hundreds of counties across the country no longer have local news outlets to watch over their politicians. I, for one, don't want Lancaster County to join them. The good news is that there are things that you and I can do to stop that from happening here in Lancaster. And further, there are things that you and I can do to fix all of these problems. If you're curious about what can be done, it can't be fit into a lightning talk. I've got 2 seconds left, but there's little postcards on that table. You could come up to me, you could ask me, you could Slack me.